So I've got the rudder, now bevel it, just like you did to those things. So I beveled it and put some pieces of tape on it, and I'm going to see if this will work. Put the camera down, but anyways, I'll just take the pieces and I'll just kind of stick it together. Let me try. Like, there's one. Look under here. And there's number 2. Alright, so those pieces are on. So I put tape on the back side of the rudder too, and on the bottom, and now the delta yak is starting to take shape. So if you're building it out of EPP, which I did with this one, then you're going to need carbon fiber rods, and I have one right here, and then one right here. It's not rocket science where you should put them, but just like throw them somewhere. Probably need about 2 of them. Might want to move this one closer up a little bit or whatever, but it doesn't really matter too much. But I'm building this one out of Depron. It's a lot easier and it's still pretty tough. You don't need carbon rods, but here's a good thing to do. This kind of tape, it's almost like a carbon rod when you put it across the top and the bottom of a wing, so I'll do that. So those are just some little pieces of tape. They'll stiffen it up a little bit. Not that much. It's not that big of a deal. You don't really have to put those on. But now I'll put on my rudders, my rudder control horn thing. And it has to be on the, if you're behind the plane, it has to be on the right side. So that control horn is on. Now I'm going to put on the servos. Alright, so here are my push rods. They're just from a Hobby Zone Super Cub, but I like cut them and then glue them together. So you don't want your push rods to be like any shorter than 9 or 10 inches, because if your servos are too far back, then you'll have to put your battery way up in the front, and that's not fun. So you want your servos to kind of be around like 10 or 11 inches from the back of the airplane. So now I'll put this servo on. I'll show you how to do that. So I have my push rod connected to my control horn to my servo. Now I just want to put glue on the back of the servo and stick it on there while that is straight. So just like stick. So there's my servo, and it is hooked to there, all glued on and stuff. So that's kind of what you want to do. Now I'm gonna do that to the elevons now. So all my servos are on, and all the wires are going through to this side, because I'll put my receiver on this side. So now I will put on my motor and my motor mount and all that fun stuff. So this is the motor I'm using. It's a 24-gram Blue Wonder, like 1200 kV, and it has this prop saver here. Spins an 8 or a 9-inch prop, and it's got a 10 amp ESC. I bought this motor and this ESC as a combo for like $27, and I have it onto this little mount thing, and then that's onto a piece of wood. So I'll just glue this piece of wood right onto the front of the plane, and you have to have it have 3 degrees or like 2.5 degrees of down thrust and right thrust, so that'll make it fly better. So you need some down thrust and some right thrust, so I'll put that on now. So I got the motor put on, and I reinforced it with popsicle sticks. And on this side it's Gorilla Glue, and on that side it's Super Glue, because this side can get hot because of the motor and melt the hot glue. So I put Gorilla Glue instead. And I also glued on my ESC. So now I'll just kind of put some reinforcing popsicle sticks along the edges. So I put some popsicle sticks there, one there, and 2 back there. So that'll stiffen it up. Now I will put on my receiver. So I've got all the things plugged into the right channels on my receiver. It's a Spectrum receiver. It just doesn't look like it because it's wrapped in tape. So now I'll put on my battery and find the center of gravity. So your CG, I can't talk because I have my retainer in right now, but your CG, the center of gravity, should be about 10 inches back from the nose right here. Not right here, right here. About 9 to 10 inches back. You might want to do 9 for your first flight. So here's where my marks are, and I have to put the battery on the plane, position it so that the plane will balance on my fingers when my fingers are on those marks. So right now it's tail heavy, so I have to put the battery up front. So I'm going to do that now. So there's my battery. I have it on a strip of Velcro, and I can move it around to adjust the CG. And I also put bigger batteries on here. Like this is a 360 milliamp 4-cell, or 3-cell. I also put 500 milliamp 3-cell and 800 milliamp 3 cells on this plane. So as you can see right here, if I put my fingers on those marks, hold on, let me try this. So my fingers are on those marks, and the plane balances pretty good with the battery right there. So those marks are 9 to 10 inches back. You might already want to do 9 for your first flight. So now I'll set up all the stuff, like, you know what I'm talking about. Like I'll set up the trims and the travel adjusts and the dual rates and stuff. Okay, so I got the bind plug in on my receiver, and now I'll plug these two things in. Let me put the camera down for a sec. Alright, so I'm plugging the battery into the ESC, and so that's plugged in. You can see that little light's flashing in there. Now I'll hold the trainer switch on my DX6i and turn it on, and that little light will start blinking slower. I'll let go of the trainer switch, it'll stop, and it'll kind of go. And now all those things are off, so I'll have to trim them. So now I'll do that. So I've got rudder, elevator, and aileron, and that's about how much you want the control surfaces to move for like acrobatic flying and stuff. But you can dial them down a little bit if you're not as good at flying. And what I do is I set up a mix, so my ailerons also do a little bit of rudder, and that's way too much. I'll dial that down. But when your ailerons are going full movement, you should have your rudder move like back and forth about 2 inches, not all the way. So because on this plane, rudder does a lot. Like, you totally do not need that much rudder. Like, you probably use that much at the most. So your rudder should only go about that much when your ailerons are working, but that's like way too much. And then I'll put on the prop here in a little bit, and then it'll be ready to fly. Alright, so now I've got that mix set up. So you see, when the elevons are moving all the way, the rudder just moves a little bit. So now I'll do some cosmetic stuff like color all over it. Alright, so I'm done. This one weighs 8.4 ounces with this little battery. It'll probably weigh about 9 ounces with my bigger batteries, but you should keep it under 10 ounces. If your plane is over 10 ounces, you need to do something to cut back on weight. But it's ready to fly.